Some of the world's best poets at the Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival.
Even with insects, some can sing, some can't.
The poet Coleman Barks is a son of the American South who teaches English at the University of Georgia. For many years, he has devoted himself to the poetry of the 13th century Persian mystic, Rumi.
There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them.
In this hour, Coleman Barks with the Fall-Winter Consort and the poetry of Rumi.
Coleman Barks comes to us from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's taller. And Athens, Georgia. And by some mysterious travel, Turkey. Coleman Bark.
All the poems tonight are the words of 13th century mystic Jalāl Rumi. I think that's all I'll say. Listen to presences inside poems. Let them take you where they will. Follow those private hints and never leave the premises. I am so small. How can this great love be inside me? Look at your eyes. They're small. But they see enormous things. Walk to the well. Turn as the earth and the moon turn, circling what they love. Whatever circles comes from the center. Jalāl Rumi. He was an Islamic mystic, 13th century poet who wrote in Persian, and all of his poems were spoken or sprang spontaneously from these ecstatic states. And the poetry has to do with the opening of the heart and exploring the mystery of what they call union.
A 13th century mystic?
Yeah. The mystical poet believes or knows that we're in the midst of some enormous creative energy that makes 300 billion galaxies and these flowers and the people in a restaurant, the unbelievable variety and energy going on all the time. We're in the midst of it.
Do you find it hard to talk about mysticism?
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm supposed to talk about it, really. And particularly on television.
Mysticism wasn't meant to be public, was it?
No, it comes from the word, the mystes, members of the mystery cults in ancient Greece, and the mystes has to do with this, with the mouth and with silence. Shh. The mystes were the ones who did not speak their secrets.
And they're hard to tell because they are secrets. And
Yes, they are. But I think it's time to tell them. All day I think about it. Then at night, I say it. Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere. I'm sure of that. And I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent, sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I fly off. But who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? There was once a frog from the ocean that came to visit a frog who lived in a little ditch, 3 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet. And the little frog jumped down in the ditch and would go up to the other side and say, "How did you like that?" to the ocean frog. He said, explored his little hole in the ground. And he says, "What is it like where you live?" And the frog that lived in the ocean said, "I couldn't tell you. It's like, you have to go there someday. I'll take you there someday," he said. That is like trying to describe mystical reality to someone who lives in the confines of the mind. That's like the difference between that ditch and the ocean. And maybe through mystical poetry, you get a little taste or a little fragrance of salt breeze coming. What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I didn't come here of my own accord. And I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me home. This poetry, I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it. When I'm outside the saying of it, I get very quiet and rarely speak at all. Some people have just this abundance of creativity flowing through them. It's just a gift.
How many poems did Rumi write?
Thousands, just thousands. He must have written 12 or 14 poems a day for something like the last 12 years of his life.
I heard you say to someone here that trying to imagine the Islamic world without Rumi is like trying to imagine the Western world without Shakespeare.
He is the model of imaginative freedom. you know, like Shakespeare is for us. Whenever I hear Shakespeare, it just, oh man, something just, you know, I can do that. That's my language, you know. And they hear that through Rumi.
But we've never heard of him. Not many people have heard of him.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of him until 1976, and I had one of the best literary educations you can get in this country at the University of California at Berkeley and at Chapel Hill, you know. And I'd never heard of Rumi until Robert Bly handed me this book, and he said, these poems need to be released from their cages, you know.
And you've been translating them ever since?
Yeah, 17 years now. I've been working pretty much every morning on trying to make what I am given, which is literal, scholarly transcriptions of poems, into what I hope are valid poems in American English.
Something about him so appealed to you that, in effect, you stopped writing poetry, more or less, to just translate his works.
Uh-huh. I still write my own personal poetry, but I love this. I feel a great gift to be able to do this work, whatever it is. You've seen a herd of goats going down to the river. The lame and dreamy goat brings up the rear. There are worried faces about that one, but now they're laughing because look, as they return, that one is the leader. There are many different ways of knowing. The lame goat's kind has branches that trace back to the roots of presence. Learn from the lame goat and lead the herd home.
You said last night in the performance, you urged the audience to look for the presence within the poem.
Right.
What is that presence?
Yeah. I don't have any way to say what that is. You know, it's what we feel. Let's see. When we feel like Wordsworth said it, you know, and what he said, there's a presence that he was walking to Tintern Abbey, you know, and he felt this presence that rolls through all things. Sometimes we feel it out in nature. Sometimes we feel it in laughter.
Let's see what it is in another one of his poems. Here's one.
To praise is to praise how one surrenders to the emptiness. To praise the sun is to praise your own eyes. Praise the ocean. What we say, a little ship. So the sea journey goes on, and who knows where. Just to be held by the ocean is the best luck we could have. That's what William James called the oceanic feeling. That's the present. It's a total waking up. Why should we grieve that we've been sleeping? It doesn't matter how long we've been unconscious. We're groggy, but let the guilt go. Feel the motions of tenderness around you, the buoyancy. Feel the motions of tenderness around you, the buoyancy.
But how does a Westerner, scientifically inclined, surrounded by technology, how does a Westerner approach poetry like this?
I think we all have a core that's ecstatic, that knows that looks up in wonder. We all know that there are marvelous moments of eternity that just happen, you know, that we know them. We can't say they don't happen, can we? I can't.
You use the word ecstatic.
Yeah.
Ecstasy is very central to Rumi's poems. What is ecstasy?
When I was a child in Chattanooga, sometimes in April, I remember it was like 7 or 8 years old, and when that spring gold light would come at the end of the day, that's just there for about 10 minutes. You know what I'm talking about in the South? That gold time. I could hardly stand it as a child. I would lay down and hug myself, and I'd be there, and my mother and father would be playing bridge with the Penningtons, you know, and I'd look up, I'd say, "Mama, I've got that full feeling again," just laying on the floor holding myself, you know, and she'd say, "I know you do, honey." So, you know, I grew up in an ecstatic family, just living in this beautiful, gorgeous place of the Tennessee Valley, and around all of these ecstatic teachers. I had a Latin teacher that was just unbelievable. I mean, he would stand up on the desk and just scream, you know, "Young man, I love words."
This book, it's a bunch of words that no one really uses. They're just weird words. Robert Bly, I went to go see him, and some guy just came and handed them out. Coleman Barks.
This is a book of lost words. Totally useless, tasty language. You want one? All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. I have one.
Free book.
Thank you.
Drix, the rotten part of wood. He easily pried loose the drix with one finger and looked back at me. So they're totally useless language.
Where do you find these words?
Well, I found some of them in the Oxford English Dictionary, 13-volume dictionary, and some in an 18th century dictionary of street language, and some of them I just made up.
What are some of your favorite words in there?
Bizonian, a raw recruit, someone in need of everything. Instruction, equipment, and rations. A word Shakespeare made up from the Italian bisogno, to want. Seventh graders, you loud, skinny Bizonians, I see your glory. Rumi's teacher was the mysterious Shams of Tabriz, and found buried in one of Shams's discourses a poem that seems to have been written by Shams himself. So this is its debut, as far as I know, in English. I, you, he, she, we. I, you, he, she, we. In the garden of mystic lovers, I, you, he, she, we. In the garden of mystic lovers, these are not true distinctions. I, you, he, she, we. All right.
Last night, you read I, you, he, she, we.
Yeah.
In the garden of
mystic lovers. These are not true distinctions.
So
what's so radical, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
What do you make of it?
There's a certain state of awareness where individuality is not the truth. There's some truth that we are a community. The fact that we are multiple is not so true as the fact that we are one. He says, amazing thing for someone to say in the 13th century, the Crusades were going through, the wars were happening, all this sectarian conflict. And he said, if you think there's an important difference, this is so radical, between a Muslim and a Jew and a Christian and a Buddhist and a Hindu and a shamanist, if you think there's an important difference between those categories, then you're making a division between your heart, what you love with, and your ability to act in the world. Just amazing.
Because the heart
is the same.
Leaps beyond those categories.
Right. There's some impulse to worship and to love that is common in everyone.
As you talk, this is the one I think of.
We can't help being thirsty. Moving toward the voice of water. Milk drinkers draw close to the mother. Muslims, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Hindus, shamans, everyone hears the intelligent sound and moves with thirst to meet it. Clean your ears. Don't listen for something you've heard before. Invisible camel bells, slight footfalls in sand, almost in sight. The first word they call out will be the last word of our last poem. The way of love is not a subtle argument. The door there is devastation. Birds make great sky circles of their freedom. How do they learn it? They fall, and falling, they're given wings. Birds make great sky circles of their freedom. How do they learn that? They fall, and falling, they're given wings. Not all of his poems are reminders of an ecstatic state. There's a lot of different sides to his genius. This is more maybe on the practical side, about deliberation, about... A friend remarks to the prophet, "Why is it I get screwed in business deals? It's like a spell. I become distracted by business talk and make wrong decisions." Muḥammad replies, "Stipulate with every transaction that you need 3 days to make sure. Deliberation is one of the qualities of God. Throw a dog a bit of something, he sniffs to see if he wants it. He's deliberate. Be that careful. Sniff with your wisdom nose, get clear, then decide. The universe came gradually into being over 6 days. God could have just commanded be. God could have thrown full-blown prophets flying into the cosmos in a second. Our bodily personalities seem identical, but the globe of soul fruit we make, each elaborately unique.
Read that last line again.
But the globe of soul fruit we make, each is elaborately unique.
What does that say to you?
So God, we can say that word, Southern boys, the mystery.
Even here in New Jersey.
The mystery, say, loves variety. You know, so everybody has their own soul fruit to make that is elaborately unique. That's just so love. That's an ecstatic idea. You know about Nasruddin? Nasruddin and I were out walking recently, and it started raining. And I noticed that Nasruddin had an umbrella. I said, why don't you put your umbrella up, Nasruddin? He said, oh, it's broken, it's no good. I said, well, why did you bring it? He said, I didn't think it would rain. Nasruddin has a magic wand, and he waves it and conjures up a patent office with a man behind the desk. And he says, I would like to get a patent on this magic wand. The man behind the desk says, we don't give patents on this New Age paraphernalia. So Nasruddin waves the wand, and the man disappears. Nasruddin, he is a Middle Eastern trickster figure, about which there are still jokes being made up. It's a strategy for making you aware or changing your consciousness to keep it moving.
Give me an example.
Nasruddin is on a train, and the conductor comes to pick up the tickets, and Nasruddin can't find his ticket. He looks in his pants pocket, he looks in his briefcase, he looks in his suitcase, he starts looking at other people's suitcases, and he can't find his ticket. And the conductor finally says, Nasruddin, I know you've got your ticket. Most people keep it in their top left-hand coat pocket. Why don't you look there? And Nasruddin said, don't even mention that. He says, if it's not there, I have no hope.
Rumi has a great sense of humor.
He has a theology of laughter, actually. He says that it may be that God is the impulse to laugh. You know, and we are the different kinds of laughter. There is this uproarious undercurrent in everything he says. It's your initiation into poetry. Oh, God.
You must be.
No, not my child now. Now you're a poet.
Oh, no.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Let's just try writing 3 lines of poetry that with syllables that don't mean anything, that are just tasty to the tongue.
Real words.
No, not real words. They cannot be real words. It has to be baby talk. Things that don't mean anything. Blue plum, woo, bam. No.
All right.
We're trying to surprise ourselves into a metaphor. Perhaps a metaphor for your own inner life. Okay. Would you read it, please?
Sig black mantamy, beechel stumped coinkledoo, sea black tulak, wee whack ding.
Room clank, shift, shoe, gur, vump, vamp, shing, with, pong.
Come, CUM, surf, neef, ach, magmi, diala, kav, siva, knock.
Very strange. I don't know whether that's a valuable exercise or not. Making no sense or making the edge of sense, you know. Poetry is close, I think, to madness. I have lived on the lip of insanity. It's true. I have lived on the lip of insanity. Wanting to know reasons. Knocking on a door. It opens. I've been knocking from the inside. I would love to kiss you. The price of kissing is your life. Now my loving is running toward my life, shouting, what a bargain. Let's buy it. I would love to kiss you. The price of kissing is your life. And now my loving is running toward my life, shouting, what a bargain. Let's buy it. Do you think I know what I'm doing? That for one breath or half breath, I belong to myself? As much as a pen knows what it's writing. Or the ball can guess where it's going next. That's so precise. That's exactly the way I feel.
See, sometimes I don't know where Rumi stops and Barks begins. I mean, that's an interesting alchemy going on there when you read these poems.
Huh. You see, this is, I don't know whether I'm supposed to talk about this. But, well, I'll tell you one sort of experience that I've had in my life that is amazing to me, and I don't know how to explain it, other than that there's some kind of invisible reality that is joking around with me, you know? When I was 6 years old, I was a kind of geography freak. I memorized all the capitals of all the countries in the Rand McNally 1943 Atlas. You know, ask me some capital of some country.
I'll ask you the capital of Tanganyika.
Dar es Salaam. Which doesn't exist anymore.
No, it's gone. It's Tanzania.
So my father was a headmaster of a boys' school. And we would eat all our meals over there, 400 people. And they knew that I was this weird child that knew all the capitals. And so they all would yell countries at me across the quadrangle. You know, Uruguay, and this little kid would say Montevideo. Or Bulgaria, he would say Sofia. And one day, this Latin teacher went down in his classroom and got a country that didn't seem to have a capital. And he said, this is what this child needs. And so he brought it up and yelled it out across the quadrangle. And he said the look on my face when I tried to find the capital of it in my computer, and I couldn't, named me. And so the word he yelled was Cappadocia, Cappadocia. And from then on, I was called Cappadocia, or Cap. And a few years ago, I almost fell down when I realized that the capital of Cappadocia was Iconium, or Konya, where Rumi lived. Who makes these changes? I shoot an arrow right. It lands left. I ride after a deer and find myself chased by a hog. I plot to get what I want and end up in prison. I dig pits to trap others and fall in. I should be suspicious of what I want.
When you went to Konya, where Rumi taught and where he's buried, what happened?
Oh, lovely things happened then. I went there in 1984, and was just there by myself during Ramadan. And I decided I would just do the Islamic thing, you know, and fast, and not eat from sunrise to sundown every day. And so I was wandering in and out of Rumi's tomb and all these sacred places. And at night I would go to a restaurant and break the fast, and everybody sits there, waits for the call from the tower in the mosque, and then dips their spoon down into the lentil soup. It was lovely, you know. And I always, with dinner, I would order bottled water. But I would always get a crowd when I would order it. The people would come out from the kitchen and hear me order it, and they'd want to hear me order it again and again. And it turns out, I found out that what I was ordering with my meal was the secret of the universe. I was saying Siri, and I should have been saying Su, you know, for bottled water. But,
so they'd say, what do you want? And you'd say, the secret of the universe.
Right. So there's this thing that's playing tricks on me. And well, so, no, maybe the secret of the universe is bottled water for me.
Oh, maybe. You see, you are supposed to talk about these things. I mean, mysticism is not some fog on the mountain.
No, I know that. I haven't seen anything like this on television. So I'm going to wait till I see it, unless this is edited out. You know.
No, we won't edit this out. Why would we edit the mysticism out? I mean, it is so rare. Why would we lose it?
Well, this is not it. I mean, you know, this is talking about Robert Bly. He also works on bringing Rumi over into English. If you want what visible reality can give, you're an employee. If you want the unseen world, you're not living your truth. Both wishes are foolish. But you'll be forgiven for forgetting that what you really want is love's confusing joy.
My ego is stubborn, often drunk, impolite. My loving, finely sensitive, impatient, confused. Please take messages from one to the other.
I saw grief drinking a cup of sorrow and called out, "It tastes sweet, does it not?" "You've caught me," grief answered, "and you've ruined my business. How can I sell sorrow when you know it's a blessing?" In Rumi, I think joy is primary. I saw grief drinking a cup of sorrow. To some people, the world seems like a grief. The world is basically sorrowing and grieving. Rumi would say, I think, that the world is primarily graceful. That is, it's a gift. Come to the orchard in spring. There's light and wine and sweethearts in the pomegranate flowers. If you do not come, these do not matter. If you do come, these do not matter. Come to the orchard in spring. There's light and wine and sweethearts in the pomegranate flowers. If you do not come, these do not matter. If you do come, these do not matter.
What's happened to you as you've worked with these poems? I mean, you clearly have embraced them. You have incorporated them.
You're saying, what does it mean to have your heart opened, to break out of the sort of nice boy doing, getting a master's, doctorate, and going through and teaching in college, and then having this come down and grab you and work on that. Feels good, it feels like an egg cracking open, that kind of thing, and then something else comes out of it. If anyone asked you how the perfect satisfaction of all our sexual wanting will look, lift your face and say, like this. When someone mentions the gracefulness of the night sky, climb up on the roof and dance and say, like this. When someone quotes the old poetic image about clouds gradually uncovering the moon, slowly loosen knot by knot the strings of your robe, like this. If anyone wonders how Jesus raised the dead, don't try to explain the miracle. Kiss me on the lips, like this, like this. When someone asks what it means to die for love, point here. If someone asks how tall I am, frown and measure with your fingers the space between the creases on your forehead, this tall. The soul sometimes leaves the body and then returns. When someone doesn't believe that, walk back into my house like this. When lovers moan, they're telling our story like this. I am a sky where spirits live. Stare into this deepening blue while the breeze says a secret like this. When someone asks what there is to do, light the candle in his hand like this. How did Joseph's scent come to Jacob? Who? How did Jacob's sight return? Who? A little wind cleans the eyes, like this. When Shams comes back from Tabriz, he'll put just his head around the edge of the door to surprise us, like this. Love stories. You remember when you loved love stories? I mean, they were just so gorgeous. You go to the movies, and that started a search going that took the form of a woman, and you met her. Or a teacher, and you met him, her.
They were there all along.
Yeah. And they weren't it. The love story was just a way of showing you this longing.
What is this longing?
Yeah. I don't know what you can say, whether you can say it. I mean, it's like asking, what is love? You know? What is the ache within our ache? You know? What do we really want when we love a river or a grandchild? You know, what is there's something that doesn't ever get solved in being human. I feel that with my sons. You know, that I can never say how much I love them. You know, there's some longing that just never gets satisfied or expressed, or you never paint the picture or write the poem, you know, that you wanted to write. One night, a man was calling, Allah, Allah. His lips grew sweet with the praising. Until a cynic said, so, I've heard you crying out, but have you ever gotten any response? The man had no answer to that. He fell into a confused sleep where he saw Hitter, the guide of souls, in a thick green foliage. Why did you stop praising? Because I never heard anything back. This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you toward union. Your pure sadness that wants help is the secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them. He said the longing you express is what you're longing for. That's unfair, isn't it? It's not fair. It's not somebody. The longing is not for a human form.
What is it?
It can't. It's just the longing is for itself. Is that what he said? See, I'm just trying to understand these. Yeah, I don't talk well about these things except through just the poems. You know, that's the only way the minute I start trying to talk about them, it's like my mouth gets full of dust.
Then let's finish with this final Rumi.
The morning wind spreads its fresh smell. We must get up and take that in. That wind that lets us live, breathe, before it's gone.
Breathe before it's gone.
Yeah. He thought there were secrets to be known at dawn. The secrets that we've been trying to tell here in broad daylight. Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened. Don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Take down a musical instrument. Let the beauty we love be what we do. The mind cannot understand Rumi's poetry. Neither can desire. Mind and desire are not enough. There's something else, some other way of knowing, some deeper part of our being that knows we're not in grief, that knows we're in eternity, that sings out of that. That's the mystery, I think, that cannot be said. Let the beauty we love be what we do. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. There are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. His little hole in the ground. And he says, you know, what is it like where you live? And the frog that lived in the ocean said, I couldn't tell you. It's like, you have to go there someday. I'll take you there someday, he said. That is like trying to describe mystical reality to someone who lives in the confines of the mind. That's like the difference between that ditch and the ocean. And maybe through mystical poetry, you get a little taste or a little fragrance of salt breeze coming. What is the soul? I cannot stop asking. If I could taste one sip of an answer, I could break out of this prison for drunks. I didn't come here of my own accord. And I can't leave that way. Whoever brought me here will have to take me home. This poetry, I never know what I'm going to say. I don't plan it.
Some of the world's best poets at the Geraldine R. Dodge Poetry Festival.
Even with insects, some can sing, some can't.
The poet Coleman Barks is a son of the American South who teaches English at the University of Georgia. For many years, he has devoted himself to the poetry of the 13th century Persian mystic, Rumi.
There are love dogs no one knows the names of. Give your life to be one of them.
In this hour, Coleman Barks with the Fall Winter Consort and the Poetry of Rumi.
Coleman Barks comes to us from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He's taller. And Athens, Georgia. And by some mysterious travel, Turkey. Coleman Bark.
All the poems tonight are the words of 13th century mystic Jalāl Rumi. I think that's all I'll say. Jalāl Rumi, he was an Islamic mystic, 13th century poet who wrote in Persian, and all of his poems were spoken or sprang spontaneously from these ecstatic states. And the poetry has to do with the opening of the heart and exploring the mystery of what they call union.
A 13th century mystic?
Yeah. The mystical poet believes or knows that we're in the midst of some enormous creative energy that makes 300 billion galaxies and these flowers and the people in a restaurant, the unbelievable variety and energy going on all the time. We're in the midst of it.
Do you find it hard to talk about mysticism?
Yeah. I don't know whether I'm supposed to talk about it, really. And particularly on television.
Mysticism wasn't meant to be public, was it?
No, it comes from the word, the mystes, the members of the mystery cults in ancient Greece. And the mystes has to do with this, with the mouth and with silence. Shh. The mystes were the ones who did not speak their secrets.
And they're hard to tell because they are secrets. And
Yes, they are. But I think it's time to tell them. All day I think about it. Listen to presences inside poems. Let them take you where they will. Follow those private hints and never leave the premises. I am so small. How can this great love be inside me? Look at your eyes. They're small. But they see enormous things. Walk to the well. Turn as the earth and the moon turn, circling what they love. Whatever circles comes from the center. Then at night, I say it. Where did I come from? And what am I supposed to be doing? I have no idea. My soul is from elsewhere. I'm sure of that. And I intend to end up there. This drunkenness began in some other tavern. When I get back around to that place, I'll be completely sober. Meanwhile, I'm like a bird from another continent, sitting in this aviary. The day is coming when I fly off. But who is it now in my ear who hears my voice? There was once a frog from the ocean that came to visit a frog who lived in a little ditch, 3 feet by 4 feet by 2 feet. And the little frog jumped down in the ditch and would go up to the other side and say, "How did you like that?" to the ocean frog. He said, "Explored